The broom stopped so hard the bristles bent sideways. Evelyn stared at the broken glass scattered across the porch boards. A jar had slipped from her hand an hour earlier, but now the mess felt older, like something that had been waiting for her all morning. Then she heard it.
Don't look back.
Not loud.
Keep your eyes on me. We're
Not
gonna
sharp.
make it.
Just one word. Evelyn. Her fingers locked around the broom
You
handle.
have to be strong now, okay?
She turned so fast the
We're
broom
almost
scraped
there.
wood.
Just hold on to me.
The cowboy stood near the hitching post with his hat low and his hands loose at his sides. Same faded coat. Same dust on his boots. Same quiet face that had not changed in years. But now his mouth was closed again, like it regretted opening. She stared. No one moved. A ranch hand carrying feed stopped halfway across the yard. Another one froze beside the water trough. Even the horses seemed to go still. Evelyn blinked once. Say that again. The cowboy lifted his eyes. No fear. No apology. Just tiredness. Evelyn. Her jaw tightened so hard it hurt. You don't get to say that. He looked at the broom in her hands. I know. Her laugh came out thin and ugly. Do you? He said nothing. That almost made it worse. She stepped down from the porch, slow at first, then faster. Glass cracked under her boots. The ranch hands exchanged glances but stayed back. She stopped 3 feet from him. 7 years. 7 whole years this man had worked her land like a ghost. Ate her food. Fixed her fences. Buried her livestock. Sat by her fire in winter. And never once spoke. Not a word. Not a cough with meaning. Nothing. Now this. Why? She asked. He studied her face like he had been preparing for this question a long time. Had to. She shook her head. That's all? No. Then keep going. His throat moved, like speaking itself was painful. Not here. Her face hardened. You lost the right to choose where. One of the younger ranch hands stepped closer. Miss Evelyn? She lifted a hand without looking away from the cowboy. Stay back. The boy obeyed. Wind dragged dust across the yard. The cowboy glanced toward the road. That small movement bothered her more than anything. He was waiting for something. Or someone. What are you afraid of? She asked. He finally looked at her again. Timing. Her stomach dropped. Before she could ask what that meant, an engine growled somewhere beyond the trees. All eyes shifted. A truck appeared through the front gate, tires kicking dirt high into the air. Sheriff. Of course. The truck rolled slow now, like the man behind the wheel already sensed trouble. Evelyn muttered, perfect. The cowboy didn't react. That bothered her too. The truck stopped near the porch. The sheriff climbed out, heavy boots hitting dirt. He was older now. Whiter. Slower around the knees. But his badge still caught light like it mattered. He shut the truck door and squinted at the scene. Ranch hands frozen. Glass on the porch. Evelyn standing rigid with a broom like a weapon. Cowboy facing her like a condemned man. The sheriff frowned. What happened here? No trouble, Evelyn said. He looked between them. That man just speak? Silence. Then the cowboy answered. Yes. The sheriff actually stopped breathing for half a second. It was tiny. But Evelyn saw it. So did the cowboy. Interesting. The sheriff recovered quickly. Well. Hell. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. You knew? Knew what? That he could talk. Sheriff scratched his jaw. Everybody can talk. Not him. The cowboy cut in quietly. Enough. All 3 of them looked at one another like they were standing on thin ice. Evelyn suddenly felt it. Not confusion. Pattern. Something was moving under all of this. Something old. Something alive. She lowered the broom a little. "What is this?" she asked. No one answered. The sheriff shifted his weight. Cowboy watched the road again. Evelyn followed his gaze. Nothing there now. Just dust settling. Still, her pulse climbed. The sheriff cleared his throat. "Maybe we should all calm down." She snapped toward him. "Don't tell me to calm down on my own porch." He raised both hands. "Fine." The cowboy stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Inside." "No." "Yes." "You think you get to order me now?" His face barely changed. But his voice did. For the first time, it carried something heavier than silence. "Please." That word hit harder than her own name. She stared at him. There it was. Not fear. Not guilt. Urgency. Real urgency. Something was wrong. Something had already started. She looked toward the sheriff. He was watching the cowboy too carefully. Like a man trying to read a fuse before it reached flame. Evelyn slowly tightened her grip on the broom until it creaked beneath her fingers. A splinter drove into her palm. She barely felt it. Because now she understood one thing clearly. The silence was over. And whatever had kept it alive for 7 years had finally broken. The sheriff didn't step away from the porch. He just looked at the cowboy like the air had changed shape around him. Evelyn noticed it first. Not fear exactly. Something tighter. Something controlled. The sheriff nodded once toward the barn. "Inside. All of you." Evelyn didn't move. The cowboy did. That alone made her uneasy. She followed him in slow steps, the broom still in her hand like she'd forgotten it was there. The ranch hands stayed outside, watching but not following. Inside the barn, the air was colder. Horses shifted in their stalls. A chain rattled somewhere in the back. The sheriff shut the door behind them. "Talk," he said. Evelyn turned on him immediately. "You don't get to come onto my land and start ordering people." The sheriff didn't blink. Something just changed. Because he spoke, she shot back. The sheriff looked at the cowboy. Because he chose to. Silence hit the barn harder than wind. Evelyn stepped closer to the sheriff. "You knew him before." "I know a lot of men." "That's not an answer." The cowboy finally spoke again, voice low. "Enough talking." The sheriff's eyes flicked to him. "Funny. That's your first full sentence in years and you're already tired of it." Evelyn turned sharply. "What is going on?" No one answered. Then, from outside, a shout. One of the ranch hands. "Miss Evelyn!" Bootsteps rushed in the dirt. The barn door creaked open. A young ranch hand stumbled inside holding something wrapped in cloth. He was breathing hard. "I found it," he said. Evelyn frowned. "Found what?" He hesitated. The sheriff straightened slightly. The cowboy went still. The boy slowly unwrapped the cloth. Metal caught dim barn light. A badge. Old. Rust-stained. Bent at the edges like it had been buried for a long time. Evelyn's throat tightened before she even understood why. The sheriff took one step forward. "Where did you get that?" The boy pointed outside. "Fence line. Near the east stable." It was under loose dirt. Evelyn stared at the badge. Then at the sheriff. Then at the cowboy. Something in her chest turned cold. "That's not ours," she said slowly. The sheriff didn't look away from it. "It used to be." Evelyn stepped closer. "Whose is it?" The sheriff didn't answer. The cowboy did. "Her father's." Evelyn froze. The air in the barn dropped. She turned slowly toward him. Say that again. The cowboy didn't hesitate this time. Your father wore that badge. Her grip tightened on the broom so hard it cracked slightly. My father is dead, she said. The sheriff exhaled through his nose. That's complicated. Evelyn snapped toward him. Try me. The sheriff rubbed the back of his neck. That badge shouldn't be here. Evelyn stepped closer, voice shaking now but controlled. You said it used to be his. Yes. So why is it in my dirt? No one spoke. A horse stomped behind them. The sound echoed too loud. Evelyn turned back to the cowboy. You've been here 7 years. He nodded once. You knew my father? A pause. Then, yes. The word landed like a slap. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. You didn't speak for 7 years. But you can speak now? The sheriff cut in quickly. This isn't about him. It is now, she snapped. The cowboy looked down at the badge. Then back at her. Your father didn't disappear, he said. Evelyn felt her stomach drop. The sheriff moved fast. Stop. The cowboy didn't stop. He was killed. Evelyn's breath caught. No, she said immediately. Yes, the cowboy replied. The sheriff raised his voice. That's enough. Evelyn turned on him. Is it true? The sheriff hesitated. That hesitation said everything. Evelyn's face changed. Something behind her eyes hardened. You're standing in my barn, she said quietly. Telling me my father was murdered. The sheriff swallowed. Evelyn. Don't. Silence again. The cowboy spoke softer now. It wasn't random. Evelyn stared at him. Then what was it? He didn't answer immediately. The sheriff did. Power, he said. Always power. Evelyn shook her head slowly. No. The sheriff stepped closer. Your father found things he shouldn't have. Like what? The sheriff looked at the cowboy before answering. Names. Deals. Land transfers that didn't exist on paper. Evelyn's voice dropped. And you're telling me this now? The sheriff's jaw tightened. I didn't want you involved. Evelyn let out a sharp laugh. You didn't want me involved? The cowboy finally spoke again. You already are. That made her go still. Outside the barn, something shifted. Footsteps again. Not running this time. Measured. Deliberate. The sheriff glanced toward the door. We're not alone. Evelyn whispered, Who's here? The cowboy answered without looking away from the door. Someone who knows I spoke. The sheriff reached slowly toward his belt. Evelyn stepped back instinctively. The barn suddenly felt smaller. The air heavier. The badge still lay in the boy's hands, forgotten now, like it had already done its damage. Evelyn looked at it once more. Then at the cowboy. Tell me everything, she said. He shook his head slightly. Not here. The sheriff muttered, Too late for that. The barn door creaked again. But this time, no one had opened it. The barn door didn't slam. It just stayed open. Like whoever stood outside didn't need permission anymore. Evelyn didn't move at first. Neither did anyone else. The sheriff's hand was already near his belt. The cowboy stood still, eyes locked on the doorway like he had been expecting it since the moment he spoke. Then a voice came from outside. Calm. Controlled. You shouldn't have brought that back up. A man stepped into view. Not rushing. Not threatening on the surface. But everything about him felt wrong in a quiet way. He wore a clean coat. Too clean for this place. Evelyn didn't recognize him. The sheriff did. His shoulders tightened. The man glanced at the badge still in the ranch hand's hands. Then at Evelyn. Then at the cowboy. "So it's true," he said softly. Evelyn stepped forward. "Who are you?" The sheriff answered instead. "County office." The man smiled slightly. "Still saying it like that helps you." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "What is this?" The cowboy finally spoke, voice flat. "He's not here for conversation." The man nodded at him like they were old acquaintances. "You were supposed to stay quiet," he said. The barn went colder. Evelyn looked between them. What did he mean by that? No one answered. The ranch hand holding the badge shifted nervously. The metal caught light again. The man's eyes flicked to it. "Put that away," he said. The boy hesitated. The sheriff barked, "Do it." But the cowboy said, "Don't." That stopped everything. Even the sheriff turned sharply. Evelyn stared at him. "What are you doing?" The cowboy didn't look at her. He was watching the man. "Not him," he said quietly. "You don't listen to him." The man exhaled through his nose. "Still trying to protect her?" Evelyn's voice sharpened. "Protect me from what?" Silence. Then the cowboy answered. "From the truth." The man took a step forward into the barn. No one stopped him. That was the worst part. He walked like he belonged there. Like the air itself made room for him. He stopped near the center, just a few feet from Evelyn. "You shouldn't be standing here holding that badge," he said. Evelyn lifted her chin. "It was in my dirt." "Yes," he replied. "Where it belongs." The sheriff spoke quickly. "That badge is evidence." The man didn't even look at him. "It's history," he said. Evelyn's grip tightened. "My father wore this." The man finally looked at her directly. "Your father made choices." Evelyn stepped closer. "Don't talk about him like you knew him." A pause. Then the man said, "I did." That hit harder than expected. The barn went quiet again. Even the horses seemed still. The cowboy shifted slightly, like bracing for something. Evelyn noticed. "You knew my father," she said slowly. "And you knew him," she added, pointing at the cowboy. The cowboy didn't deny it. That was answer enough. Evelyn's voice dropped. "So this isn't random. This is all connected." The sheriff muttered, "It always is." The man smiled faintly. "Now she's catching up." Evelyn turned on him. "Start talking." He tilted his head. "Or what?" The silence that followed was sharp. Evelyn didn't blink. "Or I burn this place down with everyone inside it," she said. Even the sheriff looked at her then. The cowboy didn't look surprised. The man, however, studied her differently now. Like she had become real in his eyes. "Good," he said finally. "There she is." Evelyn frowned. "What does that mean?" The cowboy spoke again, quieter than before. "Your father tried to expose them." The man interrupted immediately. "Your father tried to survive." Evelyn snapped her head toward him. "Which one is it?" The man stepped closer again. "He found things he wasn't meant to see," he said. "And he thought truth would protect him." Evelyn's voice shook slightly now. "And?" The cowboy answered. "It didn't." A beat. Evelyn swallowed. "You're saying he was killed." The man corrected her gently. "I'm saying he was removed." The sheriff muttered, "Same thing out here." Evelyn turned slowly toward him. "And you knew?" The sheriff didn't answer right away. That delay told her more than words could. Her face hardened. "So all of you," she said. "All of you stood here and let it happen." The cowboy finally looked at her. "No," he said. "I didn't stand." Evelyn stared at him. "Then what did you do?" The man answered instead. "He watched." Evelyn flinched slightly. The cowboy's jaw tightened. "That's not all," he said. But the man cut him off again. "Enough." The word wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The barn responded to it. Even the sheriff straightened slightly. Evelyn noticed that too. Control. That was what this was. Not just secrets. Control over silence. The man looked at the sheriff now. "You brought her into this." The sheriff raised his hand slightly. It was already breaking apart. The man's gaze sharpened. "No. He broke it." He nodded at the cowboy. Evelyn turned slowly. "You made him talk," she said. The cowboy didn't deny it. That was the moment everything shifted. Because Evelyn realized something simple. The silence hadn't ended by accident. It had been released. And whatever had been holding it in place for 7 years was now loose in the air between them. Outside the barn, wind picked up. Inside, no one moved. But everyone understood the same thing at once. Whatever came next wasn't being controlled anymore. The barn door didn't close all the way after the man arrived. It stayed half open, like the air itself refused to seal what had just entered. Evelyn noticed it, but she didn't fix it. Not yet. Her eyes stayed on the man in the clean coat. He stood like he was waiting for something to break. The cowboy didn't move. The sheriff didn't speak. And the ranch hands outside had gone silent too, as if even they could feel the shift. The man looked around the barn once more. Then he said, calm and certain, "You all heard enough." Evelyn stepped forward. "No. I heard nothing." "Start again." A faint smile touched his face. "You always were stubborn," he said. Her voice sharpened. "Don't talk like you know me." "I knew your father," he replied. The sheriff muttered under his breath, "This is going to get worse." Evelyn turned her head slightly. "It already is worse." The cowboy finally spoke again, low and tight. "You shouldn't have come here." The man looked at him. "And you shouldn't have spoken." That line hit the barn harder than anything before it. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" No one answered. Outside, wind pressed against the wood walls. A loose board creaked like something trying to get in. Evelyn noticed the man glance toward that sound. Just for a second. Not fear. Awareness. She caught it. "You're not here alone," she said slowly. The sheriff shifted his weight. "Evelyn." "Don't," she snapped without looking at him. Her eyes stayed on the man. "Who else is listening?" The man didn't deny it. That was answer enough. The cowboy took one step closer to Evelyn. "Inside voice doesn't matter anymore," he said. She looked at him sharply. "Then what does?" He didn't answer immediately. The man did. "Control," he said simply. The sheriff exhaled through his nose. "You always liked that word too much." The man finally looked at him. "And you liked obedience." That silenced him. Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest. This wasn't just history. This was structure. Something built over years. Something she had been standing inside without knowing. She turned slightly. "What did my father find?" The man's expression changed just a little. Less calm now. More precise. "He found what happens when land stops belonging to people," he said. Evelyn frowned. "That doesn't mean anything." "It does," the cowboy said quietly. She looked at him. "Then explain it." A pause. Then he said, "It means your father stopped agreeing." The sheriff muttered, "That's one way to put it." Evelyn stepped closer to the cowboy. You keep talking like I should already understand. His eyes finally met hers. You will, he said. The man cut in again. Not if we keep delaying. Evelyn turned sharply. Delaying what? Silence. Even the air felt heavier now. The man took a slow step forward. You want truth? He asked. Evelyn didn't answer. He nodded anyway. Your father was not the only one who died that year. The words hung. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Evelyn's voice dropped. Who else? The man looked at her carefully. Men who signed their names where they shouldn't have. The cowboy added, and men who refused. Evelyn's eyes flicked between them. And my father was one of them? The sheriff finally spoke. He was the loudest one. That landed differently. Evelyn blinked once. So he wasn't lost. No, the cowboy said. He was removed from the conversation. The man nodded slightly. Cleaner that way. Evelyn's grip tightened at her side. You keep saying that like it's normal. The man replied, It is, where we are from. She shook her head. Not here. A faint laugh came from the sheriff. You think this place is different? Evelyn shot him a look. It is my place. The man stepped closer again. That's what makes it useful, he said. The cowboy's tone sharpened. Stop. The man ignored him. Your father thought ownership mattered, he continued. He thought names on paper meant protection. Evelyn whispered, and they don't? The man looked at her directly. No. A long silence followed. Then Evelyn spoke again, quieter now. You said you knew him. Yes. Then tell me the truth. The man exhaled slowly. Your father was going to expose a transfer of land that didn't exist legally. The sheriff added, almost reluctantly, a lot of land. Evelyn frowned. From who to who? The man hesitated just a fraction too long. The cowboy noticed it. So did Evelyn. She stepped forward. Say it. The man's eyes shifted once toward the door. Then back. And finally, he said it. A name. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just final. The sheriff closed his eyes for a moment. The cowboy didn't react at all. But Evelyn did. Her breath stopped. Her face went still. Like something inside her had just been rewritten without permission. She whispered, That's impossible. The man replied, It already happened. Outside, something moved again. This time closer. Not wind. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Evelyn turned slightly toward the barn door. Who is outside? She asked. No answer. The cowboy stepped forward and lowered his voice. They heard me speak, he said. The sheriff muttered, Then they came early. Evelyn turned back sharply. Who is they? The man finally spoke softer. The ones who don't like stories changing. The barn went quiet again. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt watched. And Evelyn understood, finally, that the moment the cowboy said her name out loud in the morning light, something in this land had already started moving toward them. They left before the sun fully settled into the sky. No plan was spoken out loud. No one needed to. The sheriff led from the front, hands tense on the wheel of his truck. The cowboy rode in the back of another vehicle with Evelyn and the ranch hand who had found the badge. No one talked during the drive. Not because there was nothing to say. Because everything felt like it was already being watched. Evelyn sat stiff, eyes fixed ahead. The cowboy sat across from her, shoulders still, face unreadable again. Like silence had returned, but different this time. Not safety. Containment. Evelyn broke it first. Where are we going? No answer. She leaned forward slightly. I asked you a question. The sheriff spoke through the cracked window from the front vehicle. You'll see. Evelyn's voice sharpened. That's not good enough anymore. The cowboy finally looked at her. One place left, he said. Her eyes narrowed. Left for what? He didn't respond immediately. Then, answers. The word sat between them like something heavy dropped on wood. The road turned rough. Dust rose behind the tires in thick waves. The ranch hand whispered, I don't like this. Evelyn didn't look at him. Neither do I. The vehicle slowed near a stretch of land that felt abandoned even by memory. No fences. No houses. Just dry ground and broken posts that looked like they had given up trying to stand. The sheriff parked first. Everyone else followed. They got out without discussion. The air was quieter here. Not peaceful. Empty in a way that felt wrong. Evelyn looked around. This place isn't on any map. The sheriff replied, It used to be. The cowboy walked ahead without waiting. Evelyn followed. So did the rest. They crossed uneven ground until the earth changed slightly darker soil, circled by dead brush. The cowboy stopped. Here, he said. Evelyn frowned. Here what? He pointed. At a patch of ground that looked no different from anywhere else. But something about it felt disturbed. Not fresh. Old, disturbed. Like the land had been dug into and never forgiven it. The sheriff stepped forward slowly. No, he muttered. Evelyn turned to him. You know this place. He didn't answer. That was answer enough again. The cowboy crouched and brushed dirt away with his hand. Metal showed underneath. Evelyn stepped closer. What is that? The sheriff said quietly, Don't touch it. Evelyn looked at him sharply. Why? The cowboy continued clearing dirt. A lid. Old. Rust-stained. A buried container. Evelyn's breath slowed. This is where you brought me, she asked. The cowboy didn't look up. This is where it started. The sheriff exhaled hard. It should have stayed buried. Evelyn snapped her head toward him. Start talking. No one did. So she stepped closer to the hole. The cowboy opened the container. Inside were folded papers sealed in plastic. Old letters. Records. Photographs. Evelyn reached for them instinctively. The sheriff grabbed her wrist. Don't. She pulled away. Don't touch me. The cowboy handed her one document. No hesitation now. Like he had already crossed a line earlier that could not be undone. Evelyn opened it. Her eyes scanned fast. Then stopped. Her face changed. The sheriff looked away. The ranch hand whispered, What is it? Evelyn didn't answer immediately. Then she said, My father signed this. The sheriff muttered, He shouldn't have. Evelyn looked up sharply. Signed what? The cowboy answered. A transfer. She frowned. Of what? Silence. The sheriff finally said it. Land. Evelyn shook her head. That's not new. Everyone transfers land. The cowboy's voice tightened. Not like this. Evelyn read further. Her hands started to shake slightly. She turned another page. Stopped again. Her breathing changed. What is this? She asked quietly. No one answered. Then she read aloud. Not fully. Just enough. A phrase. A name. A designation that made no legal sense in the way she understood the world. She looked up slowly. This is illegal, she said. The sheriff nodded once. Yes. Evelyn stared at him. And you knew? He didn't deny it. The cowboy stood now, watching her reaction closely. Evelyn stepped back. "You buried this?" she asked. The sheriff looked at the ground. "We tried." The ranch hand spoke nervously. "Tried what?" Evelyn turned toward him. "Stay out of this." Then back to the sheriff. "You killed my father because of this?" The sheriff flinched slightly. "No." The cowboy interrupted. "He was killed because he refused to stop asking." Evelyn's voice cracked slightly. "Asking what?" The cowboy hesitated. "Then, who owns what people pretend is free?" That landed differently. Heavier. Evelyn looked down at the papers again. Her father's handwriting stared back at her like it had been waiting years to be read again. She whispered, "And the child?" The cowboy went still. The sheriff closed his eyes briefly. Evelyn looked up sharply. "Don't you dare avoid that." The cowboy spoke softly. "That wasn't in the original plan." Evelyn froze. "What does that mean?" The sheriff answered this time, quieter than before. "It means you weren't supposed to survive it." Silence hit like impact. Evelyn stepped back slowly. "No," she said. "No. No, no, no." The cowboy's voice stayed steady. "But you did." Evelyn stared at him. Then at the sheriff. Then at the papers in her hand. Everything started connecting in a way that felt wrong. Too large. Too old. Too structured. She whispered, "So I was part of it too." No one corrected her. The wind moved across the empty land. Soft. But endless. Evelyn looked down at the buried container again. Then she closed it. Slowly. Like sealing something that had never really been dead. And said, very quietly, "Then we end it properly." The estate appeared before they were ready for it. Not announced by gates or signs. Just a long stretch of road ending in silence, where the land suddenly decided to behave differently. Evelyn stepped out of the vehicle first. She didn't look impressed. She looked controlled. Like she was holding something inside her that could break everything if it slipped. The cowboy followed. Then the sheriff. Then the ranch hand, who stayed closer to the truck than the others. The house stood ahead. White walls. Too clean for this kind of land. Too still for anything living inside it. Evelyn stared at it. "This is it," she said. The sheriff nodded once. "Yes." The cowboy didn't speak. That silence now felt heavier than before. They walked toward the entrance. Each step sounded too loud. Like the ground itself was listening. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman stood there. Older. Calm. Composed in a way that felt practiced, not natural. Her eyes moved over them slowly. Then stopped on Evelyn. "You came," she said. Evelyn didn't answer immediately. She just looked at her. "Where is he?" Evelyn asked finally. The woman tilted her head slightly. Straight to the point. Evelyn stepped closer. "Where is my child?" A faint pause. Then the woman smiled. Not kind. Not cruel. Just certain. "He's safe." The word didn't comfort anything. The cowboy shifted slightly behind Evelyn. The sheriff spoke carefully. "We didn't come for reassurances." The woman glanced at him. "You're still here," she said, almost amused. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Evelyn didn't look away from the woman. "Bring him out." The woman studied her. Then said, "You should come inside first." Evelyn didn't move. "No," she said. The woman sighed lightly. "Of course you wouldn't make it easy." The cowboy finally spoke. "Don't play with her." The woman turned her gaze to him. For the first time, her expression changed slightly. Recognition. "Oh," she said. "You're the one who broke silence." The cowboy didn't react. Evelyn looked between them. "You know him?" The woman nodded once. "Everyone here knows everyone." The sheriff muttered, "That's the problem." The woman stepped aside slightly. "Inside," she said again. Evelyn didn't move. Then a voice came from behind the woman. Young. Uncertain. "Who is that?" Evelyn froze. Her breath stopped before she turned. The boy stood in the hallway behind the woman. Older than she expected. Not a baby. Not a memory. A person. Alive. Watching her. Evelyn's mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. The sheriff lowered his gaze. The cowboy went still. The woman didn't look at the boy. Just said, "Go back inside." The boy didn't move. He kept looking at Evelyn. "Who are you?" he asked again. Evelyn stepped forward slowly. Her voice came out softer than before. "I'm your mother." The boy frowned immediately. "No," he said. Evelyn nodded once, like she expected it. "Yes," she said. The boy shook his head. "My mother is." The woman interrupted. "Inside." The boy hesitated. Evelyn took another step. "I didn't leave you," she said. "They took you." The boy looked confused now. The sheriff looked away completely. The cowboy's jaw tightened. The woman's voice stayed calm. "Don't do this here." Evelyn snapped her head toward her. "Where then?" The woman didn't answer. The boy spoke again, quieter this time. "Why is she saying that?" The woman finally looked at him. "Because she doesn't understand," she said. Evelyn laughed once, short and sharp. "I don't understand?" The woman turned fully toward her now. "You think motherhood is enough to claim ownership," she said. Evelyn's face hardened. "He is not property." The woman nodded slightly. "Correct. That's why he's here." The cowboy stepped forward slightly. "This is wrong," he said. The woman looked at him again. "You always had a talent for stating the obvious too late." Evelyn turned to the cowboy. "What is she talking about?" He didn't answer immediately. That hesitation hurt more than words. The sheriff finally spoke. "Evelyn." She shot him a look. "Don't." He stopped. The woman stepped back toward the doorway. "You can come inside," she said. "Or you can keep standing in the past." Evelyn stared at her. Then at the boy. Then at the house. Something inside her shifted. Not confusion. Decision. She walked forward. The cowboy followed. The sheriff hesitated a second longer before moving. The ranch hand stayed near the truck. Inside, the house was colder than outside. Not temperature. Presence. Like it had been designed to erase sound. The boy stood in the hallway still watching Evelyn. The woman walked past them calmly. "Sit," she said. No one sat. Evelyn looked at the boy again. "What is your name?" she asked softly. The boy hesitated. Then answered. Evelyn's chest tightened slightly. Not recognition. Not surprise. Something deeper. Loss that had been paused, not healed. The woman watched her carefully. "You see," she said. "He is not missing." Evelyn turned sharply. "He is stolen." The woman corrected her gently. "He was raised." The sheriff muttered, "That's one word for it." Evelyn stepped closer to the boy. He didn't move back. But he didn't step forward either. A space between them remained. Carefully maintained. Evelyn's voice softened again. They told me you were gone, she said. The boy frowned slightly. They said you were. Silence hit the room harder than anything before. The cowboy exhaled slowly. The sheriff closed his eyes briefly. Evelyn stared at the woman. You built this, she said. The woman didn't deny it. I protected it, she corrected. Evelyn's voice rose slightly. From what? The woman looked at the boy. From what this land does to children of broken systems. The cowboy spoke quietly. You didn't protect him. You replaced him. The woman turned her gaze to him. And you didn't save anyone, she said. That landed. Evelyn looked down. Then back up. Her voice dropped. I want him, she said. The woman shook her head slightly. You don't understand what that means anymore. Evelyn stepped closer. Try me. The room went quiet again. But this silence felt different. Not waiting. Not watching. Preparing. The silence inside the house didn't feel natural. It felt arranged. Evelyn stood in the center of it, facing the boy, while the woman watched from just far enough away to stay in control of the room. The cowboy didn't move. The sheriff looked like he wanted to leave but knew he couldn't. The boy kept his eyes on Evelyn. Waiting. Not trusting. Evelyn finally spoke again, softer now. You don't have to believe me right away, she said. But I am not lying. The boy frowned. They told me you died. Evelyn swallowed. I know. The woman interrupted calmly. Because that was safer. Evelyn turned sharply. Safer for who? The woman didn't hesitate. For him. Evelyn stepped closer to the boy. Look at me. He didn't move. Please, she added, quieter. That word shifted something. The boy looked at her properly now. Evelyn held his gaze like it was something fragile she might lose again. I didn't leave you, she said. They took you the night everything burned. The boy frowned slightly. Burned? The sheriff exhaled. The cowboy's jaw tightened. Evelyn nodded slowly. Yes. The boy looked confused now. They said there was no fire. Evelyn paused. Then glanced at the cowboy. He looked away for the first time. That hurt more than anything else. Evelyn turned back to the boy. There was a fire. The woman finally spoke again. Enough. Evelyn snapped her head toward her. No. The woman's expression stayed calm. You are confusing him. Evelyn stepped forward. He deserves truth. The woman replied, he deserves stability. The sheriff muttered, that's a word people use when they don't want consequences. The woman ignored him. The boy spoke again, quieter. Why do you keep saying I was taken? Evelyn softened immediately. Because you were. The boy looked at the woman. The woman answered before he could. You were placed here, she said. That is different. Evelyn shook her head. No, it isn't. The cowboy finally spoke. It is to them. Everyone turned slightly toward him. He continued, voice steady but low. When land, power, and names get traded, people stop being people. The woman studied him. You sound familiar again. The cowboy ignored that. Evelyn looked at him. What are you not saying? He hesitated. That hesitation was becoming a pattern. The sheriff noticed too. Evelyn stepped closer. Tell me. The cowboy finally looked at the boy. You were not the only child involved, he said. The boy blinked. Involved in what? Evelyn tightened. Don't do this. The cowboy continued anyway. Your father wasn't just exposing land deals, he said. He was trying to stop a system that moved people like property when it suited them. Evelyn's voice shook slightly. Stop. The sheriff looked down at the floor. The woman stepped forward slightly now. You're upsetting the balance, she said. Evelyn snapped. There is no balance. There is a stolen child in front of me. The boy flinched slightly at that word. Evelyn noticed immediately and softened her tone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That wasn't for you. The boy didn't respond. The woman watched this carefully. Then said, You are not helping. Evelyn turned toward her. Helping what? Your lie? The woman corrected gently. My structure. The cowboy muttered, Same thing in different clothes. The sheriff gave a short, tired laugh. The woman looked at him. You are all very loud for people who benefited from silence. That shut him up again. Evelyn stepped closer to the boy. I want you to come with me, she said. The boy frowned. Where? Evelyn hesitated. That pause mattered. Because she didn't have an answer yet. The woman stepped in. He stays. Evelyn turned sharply. No. The woman's tone stayed calm. He does not know your world. Evelyn replied, He is my world. The boy looked between them. Confusion growing. Not anger yet. Confusion. That was worse. The cowboy spoke again, quieter now. He doesn't trust any of us yet, he said. Evelyn nodded slightly. I know. The sheriff muttered, That's the first honest thing said in this house. The woman looked at the sheriff with mild disappointment. You are still here, she said again. He shrugged slightly. Bad habit. Evelyn didn't look away from the boy. I will not leave you here, she said softly. The boy finally spoke again.